In the heart of Manhattan, the 1959 Gibson Les Paul Sunburst gleaming in the window of vintage guitar heaven carried an $850,000 price tag. That morning, when Ace Frehley walked in wearing worn clothes, the shop owner shot him a dismissive glance. But in a corner no one noticed. Ozzy Osbourne sat quietly, and within the next hour, what seemed like an ordinary morning would transform into one of rock and roll history's most unforgettable stories of generosity. Ace Frehley, the legendary guitarist of Kiss, had spent the night before at a friend's place listening to old records until the early hours, then walked the Manhattan streets at dawn to clear his head. As he walked, he spotted that magnificent Les Paul hanging in the window display. Though he'd played thousands of guitars over his 40-plus-year career, that 59 Les Paul had a special pull. It wasn't just a musical instrument, it was a work of art. Without thinking twice, he decided to go inside. Shop owner Richard Castellano stood behind a glass counter in his flashy suit. He was 45 and had been running this family-inherited shop for 10 years. During that time, he'd developed what he believed was a talent for sizing up customers at first glance. When Ace entered the shop, Castellano didn't even look up, continuing with his work. He was busy with an invoice for a wealthy collector who'd come in earlier. Ace slowly approached the Les Paul hanging on the wall. Next to the guitar was a small cardboard tag. 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard, original sunburst finish, $850,000, serious buyers only. Ace reached out and gently touched the guitar's neck. He felt the texture of the wood with his fingertips. It was the touch of a man who'd lived with guitars for 40 years, respectful, sincere, almost sacred. Castellano finally looked up and saw Ace. His worn clothes, disheveled hair, and modest demeanor instantly formed a judgment in Castellano's mind. This was a typical musician who'd come just to look, but could never afford to buy. Castellano sighed, stood up, and spoke in a cold voice. "Sir, that guitar is for display purposes, not for handling. If you're interested in more economical models, we have several options in the back. You can find quite reasonable pieces in the $5,000 to $6,000 range." Ace turned around, looking at him with a surprised but calm expression. He'd been misunderstood and faced prejudice thousands of times throughout his life, but the feeling never got old. He answered in a gentle voice, "I was just curious. It's a beautiful instrument. Haven't seen a 59 model like this in a long time." Castellano crossed his arms, speaking with a smile but in a condescending tone. "Yes, very beautiful, but also very expensive. From your appearance, I'm assuming you're not interested in this type of investment. Perhaps you could try another store. There are more budget-friendly places around here." Ace wanted to say something for a moment, but gave up. There was no point in arguing. He took a deep breath, nodded, and headed for the exit. Right then, in the back corner of the shop, in a spot no one had noticed, someone else was sitting. 72-year-old Ozzy Osbourne was quietly running his fingers over an old Les Paul. He'd been wandering around Manhattan that morning, too. Sharon constantly told him, "Ozzy, you're getting old. Stop wandering around so much." But he never listened. Remembering the old days, breathing in the streets, dropping by music shops, it gave him peace. He'd walked into vintage guitar heaven by chance, sat down in a corner chair, and no one had noticed him. He'd watched Castellano's treatment of Ace from beginning to end. His eyes had narrowed, his jaw had tightened. Every word, every dismissive look had sparked anger inside Ozzy. Because he'd received the same treatment when he was young, as a kid from Birmingham's poor neighborhoods, in days when no one valued him. Ozzy slowly stood up. He put down the guitar he'd been holding and walked towards the door where Ace was about to leave. His voice was low but attention-grabbing, speaking in that familiar Birmingham accent. "Excuse me, mate, the gentleman who wanted to try that guitar. You leaving already?" Ace stopped, turned around, and saw Ozzy. For a moment he didn't recognize him, but then his eyes widened. Standing before him was Ozzy Osbourne in an ordinary white t-shirt and black jeans. But none of that iconic presence had diminished. Ace started to speak. "Ozzy, Yeah, I guess they've reserved this guitar for the wealthy only. Ozzy smiled slightly and turned to Castellano. The shop owner now stood frozen. He'd recognized Ozzy Osbourne, but didn't know what to do. Ozzy walked toward Castellano. Richard, right? You've got your name on the storefront. Now, Richard, let me tell you something. I used to be a poor kid too, grew up in Birmingham. Once, when I was 14, I went into a music shop. There was a red Fender Stratocaster in the window. I'd dreamed about holding that guitar for weeks, finally worked up the courage and went inside. The shop owner took one look at me and said, "Kids like you only come here to look, not to buy. Get out of here, don't dirty the guitar." That day taught me a lesson I've never forgotten. Anyone who judges people by their appearance is doing nothing but displaying their own stupidity. Castellano's face flushed red and he started sweating. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Ozzy continued, his voice harder now. Now, this gentleman here is Ace Frehley. Maybe you haven't heard the name, but he's one of rock and roll history's most iconic guitarists. One of the founders of Kiss, a hero to millions. And you're telling him to go to the back for economical models. Why? Because he's not wearing a suit? Castellano's voice came out trembling. Mr. Osbourne, I apologize, I was just... Ozzy raised his hand. No, Richard, I don't want your apology. People like you have never understood the spirit of rock and roll. Rock and roll isn't about appearance, it's about passion. It's not about wealth, it's about the voice that comes from within. You sell expensive guitars here, but you don't know what music is. Ozzy stopped looking at Castellano and turned to Ace. That familiar, mischievous sparkle was now in his eyes, a slight smile appearing on his face. Ace, mate, shall we try that guitar? I'm curious, is that '59 model really that good, or is it just the price tag that's good? Ace laughed in astonishment, still trying to process what was happening. Ozzy, are you serious? Ozzy shrugged, in that classic Ozzy way. Of course, I'm always serious. If I told Sharon that, she'd laugh, but whatever. Come on, let's get that Les Paul down. Richard, you don't have a problem with that, do you? Castellano rushed to the wall, lifted the guitar with trembling hands, and held it out to Ace. His hands were shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. Of course, Mr. Frehley. Please, go ahead. You can try it as long as you'd like. When Ace took the guitar in his hands, the world seemed to slow down. He felt its weight, noticed how the neck fit perfectly in his hand. He placed his fingers on the strings and gently played a few chords. The sound was crystal clear, rich and resonant. With 40 years of experience, he could feel every note, every tonal difference, every nuance. Eyes closed, a melody came from within, and he began playing the opening riff of Deuce. That classic, hard-driving, energetic Kiss melody filled the shop. Ozzy stood behind him, arms crossed, watching. He was nodding his head slightly to the rhythm. At one point he tapped Ace's shoulder lightly and whispered in a low voice, "Look, mate, listen to the sound of that guitar. It's like a storyteller. Every note has 50 years of soul in it. This is why I love this business. Music brings people together. Generations, classes, money. It transcends all of it." Ace stopped playing, opened his eyes, and turned to Ozzy. There was genuine gratitude in his voice. "Ozzy, I don't know what to say. Thank you. You saw how this man treated me, and you spoke up for me." Ozzy waved his hand as if he'd done nothing. "Come on now, mate. I just told the truth. Besides, are you going to buy this guitar? Because I'm thinking of buying it, and both of us wanting the same guitar would be a bit awkward, wouldn't it?" Ace laughed in disbelief. "You're going to buy it? Ozzy, first of all, you don't play guitar. Second, this is $850,000. Ozzy raised his eyebrows with that mischievous expression. "Answer to your first question. I know people who play guitar. As for the second, if I don't tell Sharon, she won't notice." Castellano had been sweating profusely while watching this conversation between two legends. He realized he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Not only had he lost a potential sale, he'd embarrassed himself in front of two rock icons. Gathering his courage, he interjected, his voice trembling. "Mr. Osbourne, Mr. Frehley, I'm truly sorry. I behaved wrongly, I admit that. If you want to purchase this guitar, I can give you a 20% discount. It would be a token of my apology. Ozzy slowly turned to him, his face expressionless. For a few seconds he just stared into Castellano's eyes. Then he spoke, his voice low but sharp. Richard, I don't want a discount. I pay money, I pay full price, but I want to make a deal with you. I'll buy this guitar, but on one condition. Castellano jumped at the opportunity, hope returning. Whatever you want, Mr. Osbourne. I'll do anything. Ozzy continued with a slight smile. From now on, whoever walks into your shop, you're going to show them respect. Whether it's a millionaire in a suit or a street musician in ripped jeans. Because you never know what's inside the person in front of you. Maybe that kid in ripped jeans will one day be successful enough to buy your entire collection. Or maybe they just love music. Either way, they deserve respect. Do we have a deal? Castellano nodded rapidly, his eyes welling up. Deal. I promise I'll never act like that again. Ozzy turned to Ace and tapped his shoulder lightly. Ace, let's buy this guitar together. Half and half. You pay half, I pay half. But this guitar isn't staying with us. Ace stared in bewilderment. Not staying? Then where's it going? That famous, mischievous smile was now on Ozzy's face. We're going out on the street, mate. We're going to find one of those young musicians, you know, the kids playing guitar in subways, in parks. We'll find one, and we're going to gift them this guitar. Ace's jaw dropped. He was utterly shocked. I'm sorry, what? We're going to gift an $850,000 guitar to a street musician? Ozzy, are you serious? Ozzy laughed. Ace, listen. I've bought enough guitars in my life, spent enough money. But you know when I'm happiest? When I give something to someone, especially someone who needs it. Rather than this guitar sitting here as a display piece, let it be in a young person's hands, making music on the street, chasing their dreams. Maybe that kid will become like us one day. Maybe they won't, but at least we'll have given them a chance. Ace looked into Ozzy's eyes for a long time. Something stirred inside him, a warmth, a sense of meaning. Then he slowly smiled and nodded. Okay, let's do it. This is crazy, but it's right. We're both in our 70s anyway. Helping others brings more joy at this point. Castellano rushed to prepare the register, his hands still trembling. The two legends paid for the guitar. Ace $425,000, Ozzy $425,000. As Castellano handed over the receipt, he apologized again. Mr. Osbourne, Mr. Frehley, you'll always be welcome in this shop. Please forgive me. As Ozzy took the receipt, he looked at him with a slight smile. Richard, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is that you learn something from that mistake. I hope you have. When they left the shop, Ace was carrying the guitar in its protective case. Manhattan's afternoon sun was shining bright. Ozzy looked around, squinting. Now, we need to find a young musician. You know, let's head to Times Square. There are always talented kids there. They started walking. Two legends in the middle of the crowd, no one recognizing them. Ace glanced sideways at Ozzy and asked curiously, Ozzy, I want to ask you something. Why are you doing something like this? I mean, I know you've got plenty of money, but giving $425,000 to someone on the street. Ozzy stopped, took a deep breath, and gazed into the distance. His voice was more serious now, deeper. Ace, when I was young I had nothing. At 14 I heard the Beatles' She Loves You, and everything changed in that moment. I said, that's it, I'm going to do this too. I posted an ad at a music shop. Ozzy Zig needs gig, has own PA. Then I met Tony Iommi. We formed Black Sabbath, toured the world. But now I'm at a different point. I'm in a position where I can give back. Today, we're giving a young person that chance. Maybe one day when they're successful, they'll help someone else. That's how this chain continues. When they reached Times Square, the crowd was unbelievable. Tourists, vendors, street performers, giant screens, lights, noise, different music playing on every corner. Ozzy and Ace moved slowly forward, ears alert. On one corner, a young man around 18 was playing guitar. His name was Marcus, dressed in a black t-shirt and ripped jeans, an open guitar case in front of him with a few dollar bills and coins inside. He was playing a Fender Stratocaster, old and worn, but its sound was sincere. The song he was playing was Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. His fingers were fast but emotional, every note telling a story. Ozzy and Ace stopped and listened silently. The crowd passed by, most not caring. When the song ended, Ozzy applauded. Loudly. "Bravo, mate! You played beautifully." Marcus looked up, surprised. He didn't recognize the two men standing before him, but smiled politely. "Thank you, sir." Ozzy approached, extending his hand. "What's your name, young man?" Marcus shook it. "Marcus Williams, sir." Ozzy nodded. "Marcus, how long have you been playing guitar?" Marcus shrugged. 6 years. Started when I was 12. My father taught me, but he passed away 2 years ago. Now I'm trying to make money for school this way." Ozzy looked at Ace. They both knew. They'd found the right person. Ozzy turned to Marcus, his voice softer now. "Marcus, today you're very lucky. You don't know it yet, but you're very lucky. This gentleman here is Ace Frehley. You know him from Kiss, right?" Marcus's eyes widened, truly shocked now. "From Kiss? You're Ace Frehley." Ace smiled. "Yes, I am. And this is Ozzy Osbourne." Marcus's mouth hung open, words frozen. "Ozzy Osbourne, you, Black Sabbath." Ozzy nodded. "Yes, mate. Now we have a gift for you." Ace slowly placed the case he was holding in front of Marcus and unzipped it. Out came that magnificent 1959 Gibson Les Paul Sunburst, gleaming in the sunlight. Marcus couldn't find words. He just stared, at the guitar, then at Ozzy, then at Ace. His eyes began to well up. His voice cracked. Is this a joke? This can't be real." Ozzy slowly placed the guitar in Marcus's hands. "This is real, mate. This guitar is yours now. Free. No conditions, no payback. I just have one request. Play this guitar. Get on big stages, chase your dreams, and one day, when you're successful too, help another young person." Marcus took the guitar with trembling hands, tears now unstoppable. I don't know how to thank you. This changes my life. You're angels." Ozzy laughed, in that classic Ozzy way. "Angel? Mate, they've called me the devil my whole life, called me crazy, but angel is new. If Sharon heard that, she'd pass out." Ace laughed too, touching Marcus's shoulder. "Just play well, kid. And remember, music isn't about making money. Music is about making people feel something. Always remember that." Marcus nodded, still unable to believe it. The crowd had started gathering around them, phones out, people taking pictures. But Ozzy and Ace didn't care. What mattered to them was the happiness on that young man's face. Ozzy and Ace never spoke about that day again after it happened. No interviews, no social media posts, nothing. They didn't even know what became of Marcus. But that's what mattered to them anyway. True generosity doesn't wait for applause. It just does quietly and leaves. That evening, when they both returned home, there was a strange peace inside them. Ozzy simply told Sharon, "Had a good day." Ace picked up his guitar and played for hours, as if the gift he'd given that day had actually given something to him as well. Because sometimes, giving hope to someone heals your own soul too.